Welcome everybody to my Letterboxd year in review for 2023. So we're going to go through my top films of the year from 2023. Then we'll look at my first time favourite watches from 2023. So those are films that I haven't seen before, that were released before the year of 2023. And then we'll go through my general stats for the year as overall. I know Letterboxd have their own year in review thing that they release eventually, but I'm perfectly fine with seeing what we can look at on my own profile itself. So, the year of 2023 was a bit of a mixed bag for new films. Most of the ones that you're going to see in this list were seen in the cinema. There were several though that weren't, and yeah, the bottom top five includes only one that was seen at the cinema, and that was Hypnotic, which was quite an underwhelming film, to be honest, from Robert Rodriguez. But yeah, the top five overall was a little bit underwhelming in general, regardless of whether it was on streaming or not. And yeah, Silent Night, unfortunately, was my least favourite film of the year that I had seen. So yeah, it's just unfortunate really, because I love John Woo films, but yeah, for whatever reason that just did not work, and I think it's mainly the fact that no one talks, which makes sense for the lead character because he gets a wound in his neck, but for everyone else not to, just makes no sense whatsoever. Then we have the worst of the DC films from 2023 with The Flash. Didn't hate it quite as much as some people, but you know, it still was pretty damn underwhelming. The Nun 2, it is quite low down, no doubt about that, but it is still far, far better than the first film, so it does have that going for it. Then we had The Killer, which, considering the director and all of the people involved, I was expecting it to be a lot better. But I just didn't find the lead character likeable enough. I found the narration quite tiring after a time, and yeah, it just felt a lot more like style over anything else, so it's a bit of a shame. Meg 2, I enjoyed that more than the first one as well, so as far as sequels go, not every sequel was a underperforming one or far worse than its predecessor, but yeah, that is still better than the first one. Sequels that were worse than their original ones include Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Worse than their original ones, not by a million miles. I certainly liked them a bit more than some people did, but yeah, on the whole, just didn't enjoy them as much. Insidious: The Red Door was decent, but again, nowhere near as good as the first film, although, quite frankly, for a series that's in its fifth film, for that to be the biggest film in the series at the box office was a big surprise, so we might well get a sixth film in that series. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts was nowhere near as good as Bumblebee. That's certainly the best of the Transformers live action films. Then we have some horror in the form of Cobweb, which I actually found to be fairly decent, although, again, I found the trailer to make it seem a little bit better than it actually was. Marvels was decently fun. It wasn't great or anything, but I certainly don't feel like it needs to be the kind of film that signals the end of the MCU. There's certainly been worse films in the MCU way back in its earlier days, with the likes of the first 4 sequel. I found that to be really rather underwhelming. So yeah, and the Incredible Hulk from 2008 as well wasn't hardly a great film as well. So yeah, I don't know why this is the one that has been flopped the way it has. Maybe it's just because people now see the series has ended after Endgame. But who knows? Then we have Next Goal Wins. Not my favourite film from Taika Waititi. I hope I'm saying that right. But it's still a fairly decent comedy. Then we have Brooklyn 45. It's actually a fairly good one-location, real-time supernatural thriller set during Christmas, so that was a really fun film to watch at the Christmas period. Then we have another Marvel film. I actually quite enjoyed Quantum Mania. I know it's not as good as the first two, even though I have given it technically the same rating, but I would still rank it as third. But yeah, overall, I really rather enjoyed that. I found world building to be really fun, some interesting character designs and creature designs, and I found it to be funny. Yeah, it feels a bit inconsequential, and whether or not the villain that is supposed to be part of the whole new phase of the MCU is going to be the villain anymore because of his personal life and the things he's been getting up to, we don't know, but yeah, still decent enough. Fast X was okay, a little bit unremarkable in comparison to maybe the 7th and the 6th ones, but still decent enough. Indiana Jones, far better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but also far inferior to the original three. Haunting in Venice is probably my favourite of the new Poirot films, certainly better than the Death on the Nile. Joyride was actually really rather fun. This is one of the films that I actually saw at my local cinema via a mystery film event, so I had no idea what we were getting in for, and this was it. And might not have gone for it had I known what the film was, but it was a surprisingly good film. Evil Dead Rise, really, really good, really effective gore on that. Missing a decent spiritual successor to Searching, although I still preferred that film. Talk to Me, one of the better original horror films of the year. Then we have Dungeons and Dragons, which was really rather fun. Barbie, didn't enjoy it as much as it's as Oppenheimer, sorry, which obviously was combined together and you know, in kind of like a trend online, but yeah, it's still fairly good. Although I actually preferred Elemental to that film, I found it to be a really, really decent and well executed Pixar film. To be honest, I found the characters to be good, I found the romantic element to really work, and yeah, it looks absolutely gorgeous. First of the 4.5 star out of 5 films, the Robodoc documentary, which I found to be really interesting. It's quite long, but it's a really rather interesting film, documentary, especially if you are into Robocop itself. Then we have The Fabelmans, one of the few post-2000 Steven Spielberg films I've actually enjoyed, and probably my favourite of his, quite frankly. Yeah, really, really enjoyed that. Then we have the Scream 6, which, yeah, keeps up the quality of the previous film as well, as far as I'm concerned, and yeah, just once again a really fun slasher. Then we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which was a big, big surprise, considering I've not seen a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film before. To be honest, I've seen parts of the first one, but never seen one in full, and yeah, that was really, really fun. They made the wise decision of actually putting teenagers in the teenage roles, so yeah, really, really good, and the animation looks excellent. Then we have Ferrari, which surprisingly isn't just about Ferrari cars. It's a lot more character based and has one of the most horrifically violent car crashes I've seen in a long while. Then we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, again, beautiful animation, really fun, and yeah, hopefully will be kept up with the third film. Then we have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Apparently they're not even going to call it Dead Reckoning Part 2 for the next film, because this one has underperformed at the box office, but I feel like that's just because, you know, at the end of the day you call something a Part 1, and some people were like, well, why not just wait for Part 2 to come out and then just watch both at the same time. So I feel that's the real issue, more than the film itself or the title or anything like that. But still a really, really good film. Keeps up the hit rate of the recent Mission Impossible films, which really started with the third one after the disastrous second film. So yeah, a really, really good film. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is probably my favourite of the Guardians of the Galaxy films. Yeah, it's just so good. Ends the trilogy on a real emotional and heavyweight kind of ending, and yeah, absolutely funny, glorious looking film, and it's easy to see why that is the best performing of the Marvel films from 2023. Then we have Killers of the Flower Moon. Didn't find it to be all that particularly well paced. Certainly felt its 3.5 hour length, but yeah, excellent cast. Looks absolutely great. Really does look like it's got 200 million being splashed onto the screen. And yeah, Martin Scorsese does a grand job in the directing chair. Then we have The Creator, which is the cheapest film, I believe, out of this top 10, outside of number 4 and number 2. I believe the rest are all more expensive, but yeah, regardless, it's an $80 million film that looks like a $250 million film, and that is because the director knows what he's doing. He plans out the film, shoots on location, and then he adds the CGI, special effects and whatnot after the fact, because he knows what he's doing. Unlike, you know, other films that are CGI heavy, where they change their minds halfway through and to, you know, rejig scenes, and yeah, it just looks a mess a lot of the time. Whereas this does look like a coherent plot, a coherent vision, and yeah, it's got an excellent score by Hans Zimmer. And yeah, it's just a big shame though that it's underperformed at the box office, because we don't get a lot of original sci-fi films anymore, and yeah, it's just bloody excellent. Then we move on to my first of the 5-star films, and first is Babylon, which, yeah, is a 3-hour epic. It's a crazy, crazy film. It's got a lot being thrown at the screen to see what sticks, and not all of it obviously does stick, but what does work works absolutely brilliantly. The cast is excellent, the score is brilliant. It really does look like a film that has had as much money as it has spent on it. And yeah, again, it's a shame that that has underperformed. And I know it says 2022, but we got a few UK release dates for my list. Then we have Oppenheimer, which, yeah, excellent film, really. One of Christopher Nolan's best, quite frankly. Although I do like his Batman films a lot, this is probably my favourite outside of Inception in terms of his original non-sequel, non-franchise kind of films. Then we have Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which is an absolutely cute, adorable, really rather heartwarming film that's also funny and, yeah, blends its stop motion animation beautifully with the live action, and yeah, comfortably the cheapest film here. And then we have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, again another sequel that is absolutely far superior than its original film. Again, like with Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles and Spider-Man film, the animation on this looks absolutely excellent. But what I think gives this the edge over those two films is I think that the emotional weight is a little bit heavier. It's also quite a lot darker in terms of its villain. And yeah, it's just really rather funny as well, and on top of all of that. And then we have Godzilla Minus One, which, yeah, absolutely sensational film. It's not just a kaiju film, which wouldn't be a bad thing by any means, but the fact that it's got character drama to it, characters you care about, themes in spades, and then you add onto that the fact that it's got massive amounts of spectacle. The size of Godzilla comes across really rather well. The score is excellent, and yeah, in fact it's kind of like a homage to the original film, only really works. And then last but certainly not least, we have John Wick Chapter 4. Just about edges out Godzilla purely because I've been a big fan of the previous 3 films, and I think this ends the series, John Wick as a character, and the world itself on that it is set in really rather great note. And yeah, glorious action scenes. Looks $100 million because that's how much it cost, and yet, yeah, they've done really, really well with that film overall. And again, another sequel that has surpassed its prior entry. So, yeah, then we'll just have a quick look at my favourite pre-2023 first-time watches. So, a lot of films here. There's a few shorts like The Goat and 1 Week and The Present. Most of these are full length, and yeah, a lot of these I actually bought, like El Paso, Marty, the Zatucci films. You'll see a lot of those in this list. Witness in the City, Three Musketeers. Yeah, most of these have been bought. Fred's extremely dark nuclear war film. Really, really dark, really rather gritty. Certainly something that will stick with me for a while, even though I don't quite think it sticks the landing. Yeah, we've also got a lot of samurai films as well, like the Free Outlaw Samurai, Revenge, Beach of the War Gods. Another Suzuki film there, The Amazing Blazing Magnum. Then I got some more Samuel Fuller films in, like Steel Helmet, which was again excellent. Got a trio of Radiance films there, well, actually 4 in a row there. Then we got Harakiri even, and then we got the likes of Fear is the Key, which has a superb car chase in it. If you've never seen the film, then I do highly recommend it. Then we get onto more like comedy with likes of Harold and Maude and Paper Moon, which again are really, really good. Magnificent Warriors is a fantastic action film. Then we have Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion, which, yeah, just absolutely riveting from beginning to end. The extremely dark Lady in a Cage. I don't know if anyone's seen that. I don't think many people have, but yeah, it's well worth watching. Big Gun Down is one of my favourite spaghetti westerns of the year. More Satucci films. I watched all 25 of those, so yeah, you can see that I was really impressed with that series, given how many are in my yeah, overall list, but not also that, also in my overall top 20. 6 of those films in my top 20, 3 of which are even in the top 10. Then we have Royal Warriors, another fantastic Hong Kong action film. Flea, which is just really rather moving and really well done in terms of its animation. Tower, absolutely riveting documentary about mass shooting in America in the 60s. Just absolutely really, really well done in terms of its execution. Then A Fugitive from the Past. This for a long time was my favourite film of the year that I hadn't seen before 2023. In fact, I think I reviewed this not long into the year. In fact, so that's probably why. When did I review? Yeah, 14th of January. So for yeah, a good 2, 3, maybe even 4 months, that was my favourite film of the year. Then we have Prince of the City. This was a Warner Brothers Archive Collection release, and it is absolutely superb. It's a 3-hour film, but it is, for the most part, something that fills that length really well. I think All About Eve, purely a 5-star rating because of its lead star, which is, I can't remember. She's put in a fantastic performance. Come on. Bette Davis, yeah. She was absolutely superb, and she comfortably elevated that film from a 4-star to a 5-star film. But finally, The Fall of Icor Castle, which, yeah, if you've seen my top 10 favourite films of the favourite physical film releases of the year, then you'll know that this is also my favourite in terms of physical release, but also favourite film as well on top of all of that. Absolutely sensational samurai film. Again, pretty long, 2 hours 40 or thereabouts, but it is a film that uses all of that time really well. So yeah, stats overall, I watched 785 films overall in the year. That's 1,249.9 hours. And yeah, I put my list in this overall overview, but yeah, as you can see. So yeah, that's an average of 65.4 a month, 15.1 a week. And my most popular day was Sunday, 171 films, 20 ahead of Saturday. Even that was ahead by 40. So yeah, there's my milestones as well. So my first film was The Black Cauldron, which is a decent animated film. Then we have my 50th film was Daltman vs. Demonic Toys. 100th was Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. 150th was 1 week. That was when I was in my Buster Keaton, trialing through them. And John Wick Chapter 4. Then The Bullet Train. Then Women's Prison. The Cellar. And Death Warrant. Final film of the year was Fair Winter Java. And every film I watch, I do it from oldest to newest. So that's why you can see a whole load of the Buster Keaton films there. He dominated a large part of my year. Favourite genre was apparently drama at 270 films, although a lot of these will have crossovers because obviously you sometimes have, horror comedy films or sci-fi action films and whatnot, so there is crossover, but drama at the end of the day comes out on top. Then the US comes out on top in terms of countries, but obviously UK is predicted to be, usually is second place, but then Hong Kong is in third, Italy is in fourth, and Japan is in fifth, but very close between all three of those, to be honest. Hong Kong only really comes out on top because of the amount of films that were actually released from that country this year in 2023. Then English is again predictably going to be in first place, but then Japanese comes in second, Cantonese in third, and then Italian in fourth. The surprising thing there is the fact that even though Japan had only the fifth amount of films there, that they have the second amount of films in terms of the language. I guess that's probably because not every film I've watched that was in Japanese was set in Japan. Likes of Golgo 13, that was set in Iran, only in Iran, and yeah, that might be why. Then we have the themes and nano genres. These are only really interesting in terms of trying to find other films that are similar. They don't really lend a lot of weight to me personally. 2023 releases, I watched 64 overall. Obviously, I count the other 12 because they were released in the UK in 2023 over 2022. But yeah, that's the amount. So 8.2% of new films, 91.8% were not. 85.2% were first-time watches, 14.8% were re-watches. And my rating spread. So the most rating I gave any films were 4 out of 5, 296 films. But yeah, there's quite a significant drop-off between 4 stars and 4.5, and even more of a drop-off between 4.5 and 5. Whereas, not quite a biggest drop-off between 3.5 and 3. Then yeah, I didn't really watch many films that I hated, to be honest. I didn't rate any film half a star or 1 star. 2 only 1.5 star, 6 only 2 star, and only 20 2.5 star. Yeah, I had a much more positive year this year in terms of films. Because yeah, I don't aim to watch bad films. If I do watch a bad film, it's usually by accident. Then we have my top stars. So Buster Keaton, unsurprisingly number one, but Shintaro Katsu is in second place because of all of his Satucci films. What is actually his non-Satucci? Or was the 26 or not 25? Yeah, there must have been 26, so I thought it was 25. Oh well, always sometimes get it wrong. Then Lam Ching Ying, purely because again, a lot of Hong Kong action films he was in, Hong Kong comedy films. You know, the Mr. Vampire series, Prodigal Son, Warriors 2. So yeah, appeared in a lot of films that I watched during the year. Then we've got Roscoe Arbuckle and Joe Roberts. They worked alongside Buster Keaton, so that's why they are there. Then we have Jun Katsumura, who I'm pretty sure was in a lot of Satucci films as well. Yeah. One film there, not a Satucci films. That's why he is there, so there's going to be a lot of crossover there. But Vincent Price and Ida Lupino there because I was either watching films for the first time or repeat viewing. So yeah, I actually watched 11 new Vincent Price films that I'd never seen before. Which, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm running out of films of his that I haven't seen, but yeah, it was really, really pleasing to get 11 more of his watched. And then Ida Lupino. Oh, all of those were new watches as well. Yeah, she's a fantastic actress, also a director as well, and she directed several films that I really enjoyed. John Brow, Saburo Darte, and Jen Kimura. So again, yeah, a lot of Hong Kong action films as you can see from Yong Bao. And Satucci films again, although he was in Bullet Train. And again, Satucci films. So yeah, Satucci films definitely had a big impact on the amount of, you know, the kind of actors that would pop up. Al St. John though also worked alongside Buster Keaton. Then you have Paul Chung Fat, Corey Yun, Wu Ma. Yeah, Paul Chung Fat again in a bunch of action films. The same with Corey Yun. And also the same with Wu Ma. Yeah. Three big influences on my year in terms of cast. The Satucci series, Buster Keaton films, and Hong Kong action films. Only really Donald Pleasance and Vincent Price and Ida Lupino are the ones that don't fit into either of those three, to be honest. Donald Pleasance, I rewatched a bunch of films, so Escape from New York, Black Wing Mill, Young Canny, Halloween and Halloween 2, but he was also putting in a good performance in Eye of the Devil, Nothing Underneath, The Great Escape, and Alone in the Dark. In terms of directors, well, again, Buster Keaton directed a lot of his own films. Edward F. Klein also and Roscoe Arbuckle also directed a bunch of the films alongside Buster Keaton, so that's why they are there. But we also got a bunch of films in from Samuel Fuller and Wong Ying. Yeah, all first time watches from Samuel Fuller. Massive fan of him as a director, and only Shark was the low point of. Sorry, only his low point of his career, and that's mainly because it was pulled out of his hands after the fact. And then Wong Ying, again, a bunch of Hong Kong action films, so you're going to see a lot of directors that, you know, do that kind of thing. George King, no picture for him, unfortunately, but he directed 6 of the 8 Todd Slaughter films, so that's why he's there. Chang Che, Kimiyoshi Yasuda, Kenji Misumi, these will be Satucci films, as you can see. Chang Che, Hong Kong martial arts films. Richard Donner, John Carpenter, Christopher Nolan, Albert Pune, John Woo, Steven Spielberg, Lawrence Gordon Clark, Zero Ozu, William Castle, Shigehiro Ozawa, and Andrei Zawalski. So these were, yeah, Richard Donner, 4 of the 5 were rewatches. Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, though I had not seen up until this 2023, so that's why that's not a rewatch. And John Carpenter was mostly rewatches as well. Vampires was deeply disappointing, so yeah, big shame. Christopher Nolan, 4 of his 5 were rewatches. The Dark Knight films have been re-released in the cinemas, so that's why they're rewatches, and I figured I'd finally get around to a review Insomnia. Then we have Albert Pune. I purely watched his films because Red Letter Media recommended his films. Fortunately, they recommended him not long before he died. But yeah, Sword and the Sorcerer and Nemesis were really, really fun. Old Man was decent, Cyborg was decent, Alien from LA was a little bit underwhelming. We have John Woo. A couple of rewatches there, but Hero Shed No Tears was great. Silent Night, as you already know, I did not like at all. Then we have Steven Spielberg, 3 rewatches. Thought I'd finally get around to watching Indiana, well, not just watching it, but reviewing it again, Indiana Jones, because, yeah, it's not a particularly great film, but I figured since, you know, I was going to go watch the new one, I may as well get that one finally logged in. Jurassic Park, another rewatch, because that again was released at the cinemas, and so was Saving Private Ryan for its 25th anniversary. Then Lawrence Gordon Clark, he did the bunch of these TV short Christmas films. These were released by BFI in their Christmas Ghost Story Volume 2. So that's where those 4 come from. Then we have Yuzuru Ozu. I bought Tokyo Story in anticipation of these 3, which were released by BFI. Found Dragnet Girl really underwhelming. Silent films that are extremely lengthy just don't hold my attention all that well, unfortunately. But Tokyo Story, Record of a Tenement Gentleman, and Hen in the Wind were excellent. Then we had 1 rewatch from William Castle because I just fancied watching another one of his, but got 3 of his other films watched for the first time. Nothing spectacular, but yeah, he's always a dependable director. And then we have the Street Fighter films. And finally, Andrei Zawalski, who I thought I'd finally get around to watching Possession in anticipation of these 3 being released by Eureka, and yeah, none of those films really disappointed. So yeah, moving on from directors, and yeah, we have all of these, so yeah. Bunch of people that probably don't get the credit they deserve, but they've all contributed to a lot of great films. Especially like stunts and whatnot. And that's my lowest highs and lows. So highest average, Harakiri. Lowest average was Replicas, which is awful. Most popular, Barbie, no surprise there. And most obscure was the Republic Picture Story, which was an extra on the Catman of Paris release from Imprint Films. Higher than average, Quantum Mania, no surprise. Fast X, again, no surprise, as well as Meg 2 and 65. But yeah, I have no shame in rating films that I like a lot that some people just don't. You know, about opinions at the end of the day. Rated lower than average, Escape from LA, just because it's dreadful. Steamboat Bill Jr., just because I think it was a bit excessive in terms of its length. Vampires, because it was awful. Really disappointed by the Skeleton of Miss Morales. I was expecting a lot better from that, but I just did not find it to work as a comedy at all, even though it is a comedy horror. Then Buster Keaton's The General again. Silent, long films just don't do much for me. And Castle Freak, I just found that to be really boring. And then all of the films I watched, that's just a lot of them. It's not going to be all of them. Yeah, you can see all 705. And then my world map. So yeah, covered quite a substantial amount of the world, as you can see. Not quite as much of Africa and South America as I would have liked, but yeah, that's just the way it goes. Sometimes I generally don't go to watch a film just because it will fit a certain thing, like tick off a certain country or something like that. But still, watch plenty of films from various different countries. One from Chile, one from South Africa. So yeah, I would have liked to watch more from their continents, but we still watch plenty from other kind of countries like Vietnam, Philippines, India, South Korea. Zoom right the way in, and you'll find Hong Kong somewhere. See it somewhere. Yeah. No, that's Macau. There's one from Macau. Oh dear. How am I clicking on? I can never find Hong Kong. There we go. So yeah, watched 73 from them. It's just a shame that there's such a small country in comparison to China that they don't really stand out. But yeah, that's been a fantastic year, so I hope you've enjoyed this roundup. I'd like to hear what your stats have been for Letterboxd if you use this site. If you don't, then I do highly recommend it if you're into your films and your stats and whatnot, because I certainly am. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.